Royal Dog, the Tweets. Mrs. Twit had a shrink. As soon as Mrs. Tweet sat down, Mr. Tweet pointed at her and shouted, "There you are! You're sitting in your old chair and you've shrunk so much your feet aren't even touched the ground." Mrs. Tweet looked down at her feet and by golly, the man was right. Her feet were not touching the ground. Mr. Twit, you see, had been just as clever with the chair as he'd been with the walking stick. Every night, when he had gone downstairs and stuck a little bit extra onto the stick, he had done the same to the full leg of Mrs. Tweet's chair. "Just look at you sitting there in your same old chair," he cried, "and you've shrunk so much your feet are dangling in the air." Mrs. Tweet went right with fear. "You've got the shrink," cried Mr. Tweet, pointing his finger at her like a pistol. "You've got them badly. You've got the most terrible case of shrink I ever seen." Mrs. Tweet became too frightened. She began to terrible. But Mr. Tweet, still remembering the worm in his spaghetti, didn't feel sorry for her at all. "I suppose you know what happened to you when you get the shrinks?" he said. What? Gasped Mrs. Tweet. "What happened?" "You had shrink into your neck, and your neck shrink into the body, and your body shrink into your leg, and your leg shrink into the pit, and in the end there's nothing left except a pair of shoes and a bundle of old clothes." "I can't bear it, Mrs. Tweet," cried Mrs. Tweet. "It's a terrible disease." "It's terrible disease," said Mr. Tweet. The worst in the world." "How wrong have I got?" cried Mrs. Tweet. How wrong before finish up a bundle of old clothes and a pair of shoes." Mr. Tweet put on a very simple face. "At the rate you're going," he said, shaking his head sadly, "I'd stand at not more than 10 or 11 days." "But isn't there anything we can do?" cried Mrs. Tweet. "The only cure for the shrink," said Mr. Tweet. "Tell me quickly." "Oh, well, we have to hurry," said Mr. Tweet. "I'm ready. I'll hurry. I will anything you say," cried Mrs. Tweet. You won't last long if you don't," said Mr. Tweet, giving her a note-grisly gleam. "What must I do?" cried Mrs. Tweet, crunching her cheek. "You gotta be stretched,"